Welcome to Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. Each week, the NI Bullpen will be covering the world of comics, talking to creators, deep diving into some fantastic stories, and much more. Now let's hand it over to the team and turn a page.
Welcome to a very special edition of Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast. I'm also Nerd Initiative editor-in-chief. Joining me for this very special occasion is Nerd Initiative's managing editor and Paperweight Entertainment's very own Derek. What's going on?
Hey, Ken, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be on here. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Derek Hoskins. I am the managing editor for Nerd Initiative, also known as Paperweight Entertainment Online. I love comics. I love to talk to authors. Can't wait to do this.
Absolutely. And we have a very special author joining us because not only is there a special book that is dropping via Marvel Comics on October 2nd, but he just finished wrapping up an amazing story of sex, blood, and rock and roll for Oni Press with Akogun, Brutalizer of Gods. So we definitely want to talk about the Brutalizer of Gods before we go into Marvel's mightiest mutant and the goddess herself, Ororo Munroe. So we definitely have you all set to go to the comic shops and go pick up these issues when they drop. Please welcome to the show the one and only MUREWA Ayodele. Maria, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. You did really well with the pronunciation of my name.
Thank you. I was trying. I'm so excited. I didn't want to just mess up the words as it's going because, like I alluded to, you have two fantastic books, one out right now and the other is on the way, but I definitely want more people to get aware of Akogun, Brutalizer of Gods from Oni Press. So why don't we start off, just give a brief synopsis of what that story is all about.
Akogun Brutalizer of Gods is inspired by Yoruba mythology, a tribe of which I belong to, and it centers around the creation myth of the Yoruba mythology. And the short of it is basically we were all made by a drunk god, a god that's basically driven by chaos, and that's why our world is in chaos. So we're going to follow the story of a hunter warrior on how we navigate this crazy world made by this drunk god, and how at the end of everything he loses his family, he loses the things precious to him, but at the center of it all is not only just this drunken god, but it's a war god, and he's going to face this war god in a battle to the death. So that's basically what this story is about, and it's crazy, it's brutal. There's action, there's sex, there's everything you want in a barbarian story.
Oh, absolutely. Like when you're looking for the total package, this story has it. And it literally locks you in from page 1 of issue 1 right to the shocking end of issue number 3. But I don't want to get into that, but I know Derek is chomping at the bit to ask a question here.
Yeah,
Emphasis
go
on
ahead,
package.
Absolutely. So, Maria, you know how much I love Akogun. Absolutely love this book. One of the things that you warned me about before I started reading it, because I'd only really read your Marvel work, is just how brutal this book really was, and it really is. This is an adult story. With it being an indie book, was there any pushback or anything from Oni Press telling you to pull back a little bit from that violence and sex, or were they saying just go and do your thing?
That's a very odd thing. When Oni Press reached out to us, they were like, no bars old, go all out, do everything you can imagine and stuff like that. And then the scripts come in, they're like, okay, good. I was wondering, is it that they didn't read the scripts? Okay, so I'm like, okay, good. And then the artwork came in, and then they're like, wait, hold up a minute. You didn't tell us you're going to do this. You didn't, and they start trying to, and I'm like, dude, you told us not to hold back, So, and the funny thing is, we were still even controlling ourselves because Dotto and I come from a religious background where his mother is a pastor, my dad is a pastor, and they are still ministering. So technically, sometimes it's sad that we don't have comic shops in Nigeria, but sometimes I'm also happy because no random church member might go to the comic shops to see the stuff we're working on. So, but it's really funny because they were the ones telling us that go all out, and when we just started showing the tip of the iceberg, they're like, okay, guys, calm down. But there were a lot of pushbacks, especially when it came to the sexual content. And one of the things that gave us confidence to stand our ground was a creator named Brian K. Vaughan. We know him from Saga. And he talked about he's my favorite creator. So, and he talked about he and his peers always have this argument of which anytime they try to do indie work, they claim to always push themselves, and they always push themselves only when it comes to violence. But when it comes to certain topics, especially when it comes to sex, nudity, and some certain topics, they tend to shy away from it. So, and he tries to push that envelope. And I'm like, okay, if he can do it, I can do it. So Saga was, anytime we're having arguments with the publisher and our editor, Saga was always a book we brought up. So sometimes they're like, Saga has like, 50 issues under their belt before they could do stuff like this. And we'll just show them Saga issue 2. This is issue 2. These are sex scenes. This is someone almost doing like doggy style in issue 2. So please don't tell us this is too early, so stuff like that. So there was a lot of pushback, but it was fun, and eventually they kind of understood and they started changing the ratings on the book.
Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, Saga definitely pushes the envelope. And this one really does too, because you're telling a very mature story, obviously dealing with a lot of different elements involved too, and a lot of great characters as well. I mean, Amayo is one that stuck out to me, and especially what goes down in issue number 3. Was there any character that really stuck out to you as like your favorite when you were writing, or was there a moment that you're like, oh, this is like, you're just completely like, this is what I've been wanting to do. Like, this is my favorite moment.
Obatala was the favorite god to write. And the reason is because when it comes to writing gods, the same preferences that Western cultures have is also the same preference we also have. Everybody loves the god that can shoot lightning and that can summon fire. So Shango is the popular god that people like to put in their stories. A lot of the stories is about Shango, and because Shango is a very violent god. And in storytelling too, in superheroes, all those stuff, you love that show of physical strength. It's easier to tell stories about gods like that. But when it comes to gods that have to do with wisdom, and a god that is a creationist god, a creator god, how do you tell a story about a creator god and make it fun and make it visually interesting? So it was really, really challenging. Like, okay, there's a fight between a creator god and a war god. The war god is also a god of metal. So that's Magneto. You get that's Magneto. You can do all that, or Dr. Manhattan changing something to another material, changing maybe like a box of metal stuff into a spear, you can create visually interesting stuff, but a creator god, how do you make it interesting? How do you create a fight scene with that? So that was the challenging part. And when I was now doing my research into the story and finding out that while he was drunk, he tried creating mankind, and he just kept creating these grotesque creatures that were too burnt or whatever. In the original story, it's claimed that people that have disabilities or are born strangely is because Obatala was drunk when he created them. So, but I put a twist on it, saying that when he was drunk, he created monsters. So I like, okay, why don't we play with the fact that if he can create things, why doesn't he create visually interesting things to defend him? And so just playing around with the fact that it's just this extremely wise god that can create whatever he wants. They will start playing around with the fact that he has laid down all these traps, all these monsters, and even the entire book of book 1 to 3 is just a fight scene between Obatala and the war god, because everything that happens is still his creation. All the scenes, all the human beings, everything he interacts with are things he had concocted in his mind. It's all his scheme. So getting to draft a story that is not about exchange of blows, but more about exchange of schemes. The clashing of schemes was very, very interesting. And Obatala, because of his wisdom, always has very nice, intelligent dialogue that I love writing. He has very quotable quotes. So it was the most fun to write because it was just so different. It's like, imagine Loki was like as powerful as Odin or something, or revered as Odin. How do you write that? He's not the scheming underdog. He's the super boss, and he does that without magic to change things. It's just about his intellect. Everything's our intellect. So it was really fun to write.
That's amazing, because yeah, the whole story is just, it's visually layered and of course structurally layered. Like, there's so many different elements, and just a barbarian going through and killing gods. Like this is just on a whole different level of just intensity with action and mixing with the sex and mixing with the drama too. Like this was an experience to read, and especially going into that final issue, which like I say, I'm trying to avoid spoilers of going into, but I know Derek and I both were saying after we read it, just like, wait, it can't end like that. Like it just like we want more. Like, wait, what do you mean this is last issue? Like there's just so much going on with it, and it's truly an impressive read. And that's why everybody really needs to go out and get these issues before it starts dropping via trade paperback in March, I believe, of 2025.
Yeah, and to that point, we were talking before you got on here about that ending, the mic drop ending to issue 3. And so it's got us asking, what's next? What's going on in that world? What can we expect, if anything, moving forward? And maybe possibly if you can tell us maybe when we could find out, because you got us chomping.
Yes.
I want to get back into that world. I loved that ending, but I want to get back in the world.
Okay. The ending also had a lot of pushback. We also had a lot of pushback with the ending.
Really?
Hmm.
Because we typical storytelling that we get is even if it's going to be it to be continued, we would love something for the resolution happens and then there's a ride into the sunsets.
Mhm.
You want to have that ride into the sunsets, with a cool narration saying, finally I've had my this and this, so that there's this feeling of satisfaction, at least. The story, so the story feels like it ends very abruptly for some readers if you are used to that riding into the sunset thing. And it's a type of ending that, to be honest, I used to hate them. But as I grew older, I gained respect for those type of endings because, for example, Warren Ellis did those kind of endings a lot in his Moon Knight miniseries, in his one-shots, where they are those endings are there for you to. They're not there to give you satisfaction. The satisfaction should be in your own imagination. I wonder how this ends. And another reason why I also love those endings is because while I was analyzing the difference between theater and folktale, I saw the differences in how they end their stories. The modern cinema, that's comic books, movies, novels, all those stuff, I think they are born from theater. And that's basically when a bunch of people go from village to village, town to town, city to city, and then they perform a little drama. In some cultures, maybe like Asian cultures, it's like puppets, some it's like human beings and stuff like that. And they tell you these stories. And many times you pay for those stories. So you should give them satisfactory endings because they are paying for it. And then you leave that village, you leave that town, you go to the next one. But in folk tales, it's not told by a visitor, it's not told by someone that's girlfriend, it's told by the elders of that community. And those stories, if you notice them, it's across culture. They always end in ambiguous, vague, abrupt ways because they are there to spark conversation amongst the people, amongst the youth. Like, I wonder why he did that thing. What if this happened? Are you sure he even really died? And then before you know it, after telling this story at maybe this festival, to the next festival, they still have discussions about that tale till they hear another story. So they are structured differently. And it's something I've been trying to play around with. Like, I understand the satisfaction the theater type of storytelling brings, but I want to start playing around more with the folk tale type of storytelling, especially when we are talking about fantasy, because fantasy was born from folk tale storytelling, not from theater. So it's kind of the thing I was playing around with. So I had to stand my ground when it comes to that kind of ending. So that's one. And so for having a book 2, we're waiting on Oni to be able to give us the green light. So I think they're still trying to do their mathematics and putting everything together about the sales of the floppies, sales of the trade paperback, and see if it was profitable for them. Probably because Oni is also into Hollywood. Probably try to see if they can shop it to Hollywood and stuff like that, and then talk to us about a book 2, and then we'll come back and do a book 2. The book two is titled Akogun, Revenge of the Gods. So it's basically centering around the escalation of the battle between Orunmila and Obatala, the two supreme deities. And now there's a new god of war. It's no longer Ogun, it's Shango. And we know how brutal Shango is. So how will Akogun be able to face Shango, a god that does not underestimate his enemies and is much, much brutal? So yeah.
No, that's incredible. And I like I say, I hope it does get to made into a feature film because it definitely fits that. And that is why, especially, everybody needs to go to the comic shops right now and go pick this series up before it comes out in trade paperback. And then you go buy another copy because you want to make sure you get the whole story together. Because this series really has something for everybody. We can't stress it enough. I know Derek and I go back and forth about how amazing this series is, and everybody needs to check it out, especially as we're transitioning now into a new chapter as one is closing from MUREWA. We now have the return of Marvel's Mightiest Mutant in October. From the ashes of the fall of Krakoa, we have Storm and her ongoing series. So let's talk about that. How did this all come about?
Yeah, I just literally wrapped up work on Akogun Brutalizer of Gods. Dotun was still drawing it, but I finished scripting. But sometimes pages will come and then you still change dialogue and stuff. But I was basically just still resting, and I was out with my girlfriend doing some shopping, and I just got an email titled Storm. Yeah, some of those decisions basically are she's now based in Atlanta. She's a member of the Avengers. She's going to be involved in international politics. And he knows some creators don't like when you have the status quo determined for them. But with that, will I be able to like kick off the story? If I have any contradicting ideas, if they are strong enough, they are willing to compromise in some areas, will I want to take over the job? So that's how I got the email. And I was excited, I was scared, and I called Dotun to tell him about it. I told my sister, and I was so scared, and my plan was to tell them no, that I would not want to take on the project. And it's the reason is, okay, we all know there have been numerous Storm series. None of them have been particularly great success. And I'm going to be the first African to write this character. And I felt there was going to be a lot of pressure to get it right. And I was scared I was going to crack under the pressure to be like the first person to get it right or something. And I felt some of my decisions, a lot of too much meaning would be read into them. Like, for example, in the solicitation for issue 3, Storm is going to lose her powers for 7 days. Even though there's still that 7 days clause, I'm already getting some pushback for just a very select few, just a very, very few. I'm even surprised it's that few. That, oh yeah, I'm taking the powers of a Black woman, that I should know better. So I was really, really worried that people would expect me to know better, and any decision I make will come with too much criticisms. And a lot of better writers have tried to get Storm and they haven't. So a lot of weird things were coming with it, and I was so scared. It felt like I was facing an impossible battle. So I was like, man, I think it's better to say no and hope I get another project or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a challenge to jump into the X universe. I just go based off what I've read from Akogun, and I'm like this is going to bring like such a different look to Storm's character, and just like the path going, especially now it's such a wide open playbook from the X-Men line just coming out of Krakoa, and everybody, all the mutants are trying to find like where do they fit in now, especially after just like such a game-changing moment that was going on with House of X and Powers of 10. So just to hear that, I mean, that's very interesting.
So Dotun now said, Dotun gave me an advice. He said, that trust me. Tom Brevoort is not the type to he doesn't believe in like maybe diversity hiring or, oh, this guy is my friend or this guy is anything. If you can't bring the goods, he's not going to offer it to you. He doesn't play politics that way or anything. So he says, So if you say no to this project, it's probably going to give a writer not as good as you are. And every time you read every issue and you're like, I have a better idea than this, you're going to hate yourself every single month.
Mm.
And my sister was like, see, you just finished an indie book. You need the money from Big Two. So shut up your mouth, be a good Nigerian and take the job.
That's
Great
good
advice.
advice. That's
Yeah.
great advice. You know, you you said you've mentioned it a couple of times now about better writers have done this or could have done this, and I'm going to push back on that, Maria. You've become one of my favorite art or authors in comic books. The way that you, and I'm not just blowing smoke because you're on here talking to us right now. The way that
Mhm.
you can craft a story and the way that your mind works is fantastic, and you seem to go to these lofty heights in your storytelling. And what is Storm if not one of the loftiest characters in the Marvel universe? So I think that this is a fantastic pairing. And I was going to ask you, what your biggest challenge was, but you've already answered that. And I think it's fantastic that you were able to pull past or push past your own concerns and your own feelings of inadequacy to do this. Because I have to be honest, Storm has never been one of my favorite characters to read, watch, anything. I'm really excited about this book specifically because you're the one that's writing it. So, I mean, I think it's fantastic that your sister gave you great advice to just shut up and do the work, and that you were smart enough to listen because I'm really excited to see what you do with this.
Yeah, when I started doing my research, reading Storm comics and dropping pitches, and very quickly I got into the vibe. I got inspired. I started throwing pitches at Tom Brevoort, issue one, issue two, at some point I already had stories about a planet. I don't want to give out the name because I might still use the idea, but a living planet that's like probably like best friends with Ego, the living planet, but it has its own badass name and stuff like that, and some people's like, dude, look, calm down. Uh number you're already starting like this major space opera in issue one. Let's we are at it didn't say this point blank, but I get what we're saying. It was like Phoenix is already like the space opera book.
Mhm.
Storm is on Earth. She's an Avenger. Yeah. Try to center it around Earth, and stuff like that. So that kind of grounded me a little. And because I was also coming from Avengers. Like Derek, Iron Man is like my all-time favorite character. I love Iron Man with all my heart. So I also was coming from the place where almost every issue had Iron Man in it. So it was like, dude, dude, calm down, calm down. She's an X character, Why don't we use like X characters? A little too much Iron Man here, and stuff like that. So, and I think how that helped me was I think there's this thing about 10,000 hours and all those stuff. So basically, I'd gotten out within a few weeks. I'd sent out like tons of pitches, like 10 pitches, just sending different story ideas back to back, back to back, back to back. So that kind of cleared all the bad ideas. So, and all the lack of confidence, all the fear was also gone with all those bad ideas. So what was left was, okay, I have all these story elements. Some of those bad ideas had good bits there, and I could start building and stuff. So, and now there were elements from what Tom Brevoort told me that I could bring to it. And number one thing is about the mutant metaphor. And I think sometimes it's gotten skewed a little, but the mutant metaphor is a little close. It's not exactly, but it's as close to every other superhero's inciting incidents, what motivates them, what grounds them to Earth, what makes them relatable to us. So it's basically their relationship with Earth, how they love Earth, but sometimes they don't feel like they belong. And playing with that metaphor as we tell this grand, epic, cosmic thriller story at the back of it. And I've been fascinated by the cosmic beings, especially Oblivion. And I'm like, see, something about Storm, that a lot of Storm stories is So I think while I was doing research, because I also listened to what fans say about characters and stuff like that. And one of the things that a fan said on one of these websites was that, sometimes Storm has turned into this character where when there's this big bad guy, everybody has had difficulty beating, Storm just comes up and wipes the floor with them. And that's basically the role she plays. And when it comes to characters like that, like Superman and stuff like that, the role people play is maybe they tend to become boring to tell engaging stories with them. And I think you don't have to like reduce their power sets to make that happen. You'd have to make them evil or break bad or something to make that interesting. All you just have to do is make the challenges way harder. Like the challenges that Martian Manhunter will face, you don't give Superman. The challenges Superman has to face has to be way more than everybody. You see characters like Darkseid where every hero has to even team up, and then you give Superman to fight him solo. You're like, damn. You're like, damn. So, and that's what I thought for Storm. If she's the Omega of Omegas, which is basically coming from X-Men Red, how Al Ewing had set her up as the Omega of Omegas, nobody messes with her. Then let's not tell stories about Omega level threats. Let's tell stories about beyond Omega level threats. And what do we think? So we're not talking about characters like Thanos here. We're not talking about characters like Annihilus. So we're talking about characters like Oblivion, Eternity, the big cosmic entities. How do you face them? And so that's kind of the kind of stories you want to tell here and see how we make it happen. So it's going to start kind of slow because we want to build up to this. One of the comic book series I've used as a template is the Venom run by Donny Cates and how it builds up to Null, the symbiote god. So I'm like, yeah, so it's kind of the trajectory I want to take with Storm as we build up to Oblivion as the big bad. So yeah, so just to buttress your points, Derek, we are going to be taking this big. It's going to be big. It's going to be lofty ideas. We're going to be playing around with font, the storytelling, the mediums. Where even though Marvel books are PG-13, we're trying to see how much we can push it. There's a sex scene in Storm 3 that we found a way to push it as much as Marvel can take it, and just different stuff like that. So yeah, we're doing our very best to make it as brutal, sexy, and as much as Marvel would allow us, and while telling this extremely mythological story about this woman that has always been worshipped as a goddess. And let's see what it means to be worshipped as a god. What does that mean? So that's what we're going to be visiting this story.
I absolutely love that take. And I love the comparison too, because that's something I struggle when I read Superman. Just I love how you brought up the comparisons there. Because when you have somebody that's on such a power level, you need to have villains or events that challenge them and even exceed their own power levels, and that's where you really see the draw. I absolutely love that take. Not that I wasn't already sold before, but I'm like completely like this is going to be. I really think it's going to stand out too, just because of that fact. Because we've seen Storm over the years has really evolved, and even now I think has probably one of the biggest profiles in comics, being a part of the Avengers, being an Omega level mutant, and just how she was really the catalyst for finishing the threat of Nimrod and Orcus and in the
Yeah.
final books there. Like that is just to show like where she's at as a character and where you're planning on taking her. I mean, it's an amazing take that, like I said, I'm getting too amped up to try talking about it because I'm like, now that I'm starting to process, I'm like, man, this is gonna be an amazing series. And for where we're gonna be starting to, I know we have a couple of titles released. What can you tell us about this series that we're gonna be moving forward, like the initial arc?
The initial arc, the episode title for that is called Grand Opening, and it basically centers, yeah, there's a synopsis about an explosion that happens in Oklahoma City and everything. But if you're going to like summarize everything, it's basically about the Storm Sanctuary. It's a new superhero base, and she's going to be doing the grand opening, and she's going to be making some announcements on what this place means to her. And I don't want to make comparison and stuff, but when Krakoa was, being announced to the world,
Mhm.
there was statements that Xavier made. You have gods now. That's not what Storm is saying now. Storm is going to be saying making different types of statements. They are going to be more heroic than threatening or fearful words. They're going to be heroic statements, but they're going to be very big and bold statements. And she's going to be saying those statements in issue 1. And that's what the grand opening is all about. And issue 2 is Death by Voodoo. And if you're going to elevate a character, if you're going to show how powerful new threats will come, you have to show how this character deals with smaller threats. How do you show Superman is actually really powerful? You show him with small cops where they fire a bullet into his eyes and it flattens. You're like, oh wow, before we now start showing the big things. So you have to play around with your hero too before you bring in the big villain. So Death by Voodoo, we see how our relationship with magic and how there's a threat that also comes to our life, and we see how she plays around with that in Death by Voodoo. And making guest appearance there is going to be Dr. Voodoo.
Okay. All right.
In issue 3 is Impending Doom. And with the sound of it, Doom, Dr. Doom. And this is the episode where she's going to be visiting the Uncanny X-Men team by Gail Simone.
Okay.
The Wolverine team and all those stuff. Some stuff are going to happen that's going to lead her into the hands of Dr. Doom. So Impending Doom. So stuff like that. And then issue 4 is Flame in the Wind. That's the one that is a little cryptic. But basically, she's going to be in Latveria having a serious talk with Dr. Doom. And if you've known the history between Storm and Doom, the first time they had that talk ended badly. In the second one, in Al Ewing's, one was in Chris Claremont, second was in Al Ewing, with Al Ewing. It didn't end so good. Yeah, this one, I think in the narration, I said it's going to be a night that Latveria would never forget. So yeah, this is going to be like crazy stuff. This is going to be the most epic meet between Storm and Doom. And it's going to start out as, a very good, sexy meal between two sexy people, but you should expect gruesome things to happen. And in episode 5, there's something that I've always said in myself, even though it's not canon, but it's always been something myself. I've always, in DC, you say dark side is. In Marvel, I've always imagined it's Oblivion waits, because they say everything in the universe, creeps towards Oblivion. Oblivion is just waiting for us all. So I've always said Oblivion waits. So it's a line that I insert a little into issue 2 of Storm, and I'll be sprinkling it across the entire series. But the title of issue 5 is Oblivion Waits No Longer. And it's going to tell us, so it's going to be the inciting incidents. We're going to learn what brings Oblivion and Storm head to head. And that's the first 5 issues.
Or wherever you're watching or listening, if you're not excited right now for what is getting pitched, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I am like blown away by what is coming here. This is really gonna be an amazing series just from what you're talking about. And it all kicks off on October 2nd. I mean, wow. I'm just processing this for a second. So yeah, this is just mixing all these elements in. I mean, this is a take on Storm I don't think we've ever seen.
No.
Yeah. So I can't say too much, but if you're also into collecting and stuff like that, I would advise you get 2 copies, because some stuff might have first appearance of stuff. In issue 1, the last page has the first appearance of something.
Okay.
All right. That's good to know. Well,
first appearance of something.
While Ken processes, I'm sorry, go ahead. I do not want to cut you off. You keep going.
The first issue has the first appearance of something. But that something, oddly enough, was inspired and looks similar to something we've seen in Chris Claremont's run, and a bold take he took on Storm. Issue 2, I can say that one is in the solid seats. It's no big deal. Night Nurse as a new superhero hospital.
Okay.
we're going to see what that means and how it relates to the superhero space. And it's something that we should be revisiting often. And as the story moves on, there will be key events that take place. So yeah, just in case, can grab an extra copy in case some epic stuff happens. And Storm 6, I haven't gotten the green lights yet because the thing is, I've been super excited about this project that Tom Brevoort had to tell me to stop writing.
Wow.
And you'll be sure, I will say, like, why? In the books they announced in From the Ashes, Storm was basically the last. Like what they call From the Ashes era. Yeah, there's Sentinels and all those stuff, but they're outside from the Ashes era. They're still in this new X-Men relaunch thing. But in that little graphics that we got, Storm is the last book that was announced. The graphics we got in the Comic-Con, if you can remember.
Yeah, because
So
it was at Wolverine and I think Dazzler. I think it was like that was the last three at that time.
yeah. So and Dazzler came out and Storm is still out. So we're basically the last. So and I was so excited about this comic, about these stories, that I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating well. I was just writing and writing and writing and writing. That Storm was basically getting a new script every bloody week. And it's like, dude, you've written all the way to February 2025, and it was still what? I think it was still July. Maybe the X-Men one I didn't even hit the shelves yet. It's like, dude, stop writing, please. Like, like just stop. Like, because you're going to be messing with some continuity stuff. Some things might change, things might happen. You might use a character that a character might kill later. Like, dude, just stop. Yeah, just stop. So so what I'm doing now basically is just promoting the book, and as the artwork comes in, maybe adjust a little dialogue, change a little things here and there and stuff like that. So that's what I've been doing basically. I've been waiting for everybody else to catch up. So so I'm basically waiting for every other person that started earlier than I did to like catch up to March of next year. So when they've written March next year, then I start blazing again. So that's how excited I've been about this story. Now, even though I've been warned not to write and stuff, yeah, I've secretly been like I've secretly been writing like big stuff, like yeah, and then the Phoenix showed up and blah blah blah.
Oh, that's great.
And the planets I told you about, yeah, the planet shows up again too, you know, and I'm like, yeah, you know, stuff. So, and now I'm bringing like mythological characters there. I want to see if I can bring Shango in, like, yeah, bringing Shango in. So let's see. So
the
stuff like that.
Yeah, great crossover.
Yeah, I found out that Shango is canon in Marvel Comics. So I was like, yeah, I'm bringing him in.
That was perfect. Excuse me. I was gonna say you brought up like the art coming in, and Lucas Wernick is doing the art on this right now. I was curious because I've spoken with you and Dotun so often, or a few times now, and I've gotten kind of an insight into how your process is between the two of you because you collaborate so frequently. I was really genuinely curious how it's different of your writing process now with Lucas versus what you would do with Dotun.
Yeah, when I got the call from Tom Brevoort, I didn't know who was going to illustrate the work. So I was worried. I was worried because as a writer, like you kind of of all the writers from the Ashes era and the X-Men, everything. If I'm being honest with myself, when it comes to achievements, I'm like the least qualified. I'm the youngest. I'm 30 years old. And when it comes to like years I've worked in the American industry, I'm also the youngest. So I was worried they might just pair me up with someone that is just not as skilled as Dotun is. Yeah. And so I was like, oh man. So I was worried. And if you're not getting that art support, no matter how lofty your ideas are, they're going to come off very shallow and very small-minded thinking. You can talk about these laser eyes coming from here, here, and Oblivion slithers around cosmic space. It's easy for Oblivion to just look like a worm when another artist draws it, instead of looking like a giant world-eating serpent, So I was genuinely worried and scared. But I was like, you know what? I'll do my own job and I'll do it well. So I just kept writing, and the image I had in my head, it was still Dotun's art, basically. So that's how I was writing and scripting it. So the first issue, I wrote the script the way I would write it to Dotun. And then after writing it, I received an email. Tom Brevoort sent the script to everybody in the X office, all the other editors and all the other writers. So it's basically so that everybody can know what's happening in everybody's book. So I was like, wait, oh fuck. You're telling me Gail Simone, Jed McKay, Declan Shalvey are going to be reading my script? What the fuck? Like, and I was the last person, on board. So that means I had not seen a Gail Simone script. I had not seen a Declan Shalvey script. I had not seen anybody else's scripts, but they would see my script. And I told you, like, I'm new to the comic book industry. I don't know how other guys write their scripts. Like, I don't know if I'm writing like an illiterate just saying badass like 50 times. Like, and then this badass thing shoots this badass stuff and this badass stuff. So I'm like, oh fuck. So man, I was like really like I was feeling really, so I was like, okay. So for the next issue, I started using more flowery words because it's like other people are going to start like reading this stuff. Right. So now I wasn't only writing for myself, for Tom, for the artist. I was also writing in case other editors and other writers were reading this, because this is for public eyes now. So my scripts are like, for a 20-page comic, my scripts can be like 75 pages. And the reason why they're 75 pages is because I like format them all cool style. I have like these black highlights for like page 1. Boom. I put like cool images of, let's say I want to talk about Cyclops. I look for like the badass image, like Jim Lee drawing Cyclops, and I say Cyclops, blah, blah, blah. I use flowery words, everything looks really, really good. Like, you can print these scripts and sell them. That's how good they look. So that's how I started writing those scripts. Then later I heard it was Lucas Werneck that was going to be on the book. And I'm a little familiar with Lucas Werneck, but indirectly. If you are someone that goes through Pinterest, which I do a lot, just to look for inspirations and stuff like that, Lucas Werneck does a lot of like fan art and design work and stuff like that. You'd have come across his work. So, but I didn't still put two and two together. So and at that time, Fall of the House of X was coming out and stuff. So I was like, man, this guy is working with Jerry Dugan. So I was like, man, sorry, I'm coming. Okay, Epice died. Yeah. So it was on Fall of the House of X. So I'm like, this guy is going to catch a whiff of my script and be like, get me another writer. This guy is nonsense. Like, I've worked with great writers like Kieran Gillen and Jerry Dugan, and you're giving me MUREWA AYODELE. Who is this? So I was also worried it was going to like look down on me and stuff. So then later I found out that like more than English is a second language for me, but I think more so for him. So then I was like, okay, for someone that English is a second language, let me also try to adjust my script so that in case he's using a translator, they will translate better. Because I'm also I also have computer science background, so I can have a rough estimate of how a computer algorithm probably translates some of these words, So I went back again to adjust some of my script so that if he's reading them in like I would just straight, they won't be too confusing with so many figures of speech, euphemisms, and stuff like that. And if he's using a translator, the translator won't get all fucked up, and stuff. Instead of write complete sentences, rather than just short sentences that, if English is the first language, you would understand what's been said, but write in full sentences rather than, I don't know. I can't think of a good example right now, but full clear sentences like you are speaking formal English, not too many slangs, not too many stuff. So that's why I did adjust. And I was so happy when he tweeted and said, of all the people he has worked with, my scripts is like the most fun to work on. I was like, yes, it worked. So I was really happy. So I think I added a lot of images more than I would, so that to express myself more. Because for me to English is also like sometimes I still see comments from like Tom Brevoort and I'm like, I wonder what it's saying. And I have to think about it for like hours to be able to decode it. Because there are cultural differences too. There are some things that you guys think are like simple words, but I still have to like wait and be like, okay, what does this mean? And I'm not like shy about them anymore. I used to feel embarrassed about like, man, these people are going to say, can't you speak good English? Why don't you understand the meaning of this? So, but I just ask anyway. So yeah, so I had a lot of images just in case he also has that challenges with mine. Because I'm also like, it's not only like I'm not only writing in a second language for him, I'm also writing with the Nigerian flavor. So yeah, so I add images just to make things much, much easy. So, and I think that has made the communication really, really fluid. Like right now, we're getting thumbnails and images, and I'm like, wow, like it's like this guy is in my head because he's taking it to a whole level, and it's been really, really nice seeing his interpretations and stuff, and his design work has been phenomenal. I'm going to brag a little. Fall of the House of X compared to this is the gap is just too much. Lucas Wernick is putting like way more into this. Like the book is pretty, is spending like a lot, like days on pages just to get them to look good and stunning. Like, the way you see his design work for when he's doing like all those Hellfire Gala dresses and stuff. Yeah, that gets in that kind of amount of work on panels. That's kind of what it's doing on. This is a gorgeous book, and the characters dress like supermodels. So you're going to love this. So what I've been looking forward to, it hasn't gotten there yet. What I've been looking forward to is how Lucas Wernick is going to draw Oblivion.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be mind blowing. I would say we kind of alluded to a little bit about Hollywood, and obviously the X-Men are coming back into the MCU. So you being someone that really has an understanding of Storm, who would you cast in the new version of the X-Men for the MCU?
I think I got this question through Marvel, like some of the interviews they got us, and I gave an answer, and Marvel cut it out because I think they were upset. I said Robert Downey Jr.
Just Tropic Thunder Robert Downey Jr. dressed as Storm.
Yeah, like just give me all the roles, man.
Oh my.
I don't have any preferences. Sometimes when I see people that look like Storm, they're usually like models, not really actresses. So it's always very weird to cast Storm. I always prefer her in cartoons. I watch cartoons mostly too. Like things like Blue Eye Samurai, anime and stuff. That's why I kind of liked X-Men 97. Like so yeah, I'm looking forward to the movies, but I hope we get more cartoons of Storm. That's my goal. That's my dream.
Yeah, same. She was excellent. She was a real highlight of X-Men 97.
Oh yeah.
You alluded to it earlier, that you had to kind of knock it off, but you know how I feel about Iron Man as well. So, I mean, even though you had to not have him in every issue, she is an Avenger now, and they do cross over. Are we going to at least get a glimpse, just a little hint of Iron Man, at least maybe popping around?
I think Iron Man has a new armor in his new run. So far in the Avengers previews, I've not seen that new armor,
Right.
but it's the new armor, and Storm 1 comes out before Iron Man 1, and it's the new armor that we draw. So yeah, Iron Man shows up for a page in his new armor.
Fantastic.
Nice.
So I'm happy the new armor shows up in our book even before the main Iron Man. So
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah. Well, I'd say before we let you go, if anybody is not sold on October 2nd by now, what is the final pitch? What is the final selling point? Why should everybody be running down to the comic shops on October 2nd and picking up multiple copies of Storm #1?
Yeah, like I've said before, you remember Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder's Batman.
Mhm.
You remember Tom King and Tom King's Mr. Miracle and Mitch Gerard's Mr. Miracle. You remember Al Ewing's Immortal Hulk. You know, Ryan Stegman and Donny Cates' Venom. You're about to have another fantastic run by MUREWA Ayodele and Lucas Warneck, so don't miss it.
Absolutely. I can't say it any better because honestly, from what you've told us in this interview, I am like so excited. I was already amped up to read this before, but now it's like this is really going to be one of those books that stands out, and I love the take that you have on it. And for Storm right now, Marvel's Mightiest Mutant to be presented in this format, I'm all in. Like this is really going to be one that I think is going to jump out at everybody about this. How about you, Derek?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, Storm has never been one of my favorite characters, but I've been the fact that you were going to be writing her already made me want to pick this book up. Now after these descriptions, it's might be my most anticipated going into October. So I'm so excited. Everybody, make sure you go and pick it up. And I'm speechless. I can't wait to see what you do with this book.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
And when the book and after the first arc wraps up, we definitely have to have you come back on and recap what's been going down. So if you're interested, we're definitely down to talk about that again.
I'm definitely interested.
Like we say, everybody in the liner notes, you can find out how to get a hold of MUREWA. And seriously, do a favor too and pick up Akogun. You want to pick this book up. You want to really push this because the story needs to be finished. It's an amazing read. And also go check out I Am Iron Man too. It's phenomenal stuff. We're not just saying it. We just absolutely mean this. Thank you again to MUREWA for coming on the show. And on behalf of Derek and myself, we'll end it like we always do on Turn a Page. When you have great issues in your hands, such as Akogun, Brutalizer of Gods, and Storm, and you see somebody struggling in the shop to find something, hand yours off to them. Tell them turn a page. We'll see you next time.
It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know. Cause anyone who's worth a damn be worth way more than a picture could ever show. You could find the right light, find the right angle, and never find your soul. And it can feel like a losing battle, and this plot is full of holes. This modern way of finding love just makes me feel so alone. And I can't be the only one sick of staring at my phone. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Don't know that I believe in the old time fable. Everyone has just one true love. All I know is you're across this table, and you're all I'm thinking of. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Talk to me. Talk to me. It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know.